where we are sitting at right around 142,000 people that we're hitting every month. So this is amazing and super exciting, and growing and having fun with the amazing people who we have on this show. And so a little bit about what we are and who we are is Taste Life Nutrition. So as a functional nutritionist, my goal is to have really amazing people who I can refer to, who I know, and who are doing really cool things in this world. And the show is about opening up minds a little bit. You know, if we're feeling a little bit rough, or if things aren't going well, or if our mind is not where we want it to be, our emotional health, our physical health, instead of just automatically saying, I need to make an appointment with my doctor, which may be a great choice, but let's look at some other avenues that could be beneficial for you, maybe along with making your appointment with your doctor, but other avenues that can help you in really optimizing who you are and who you're meant to be and what you're meant to do in this life. And my goal is to bring to you just super amazing people who are doing amazing things in this world. And so I have been waiting for this show for, I don't know, since January, I think, because this is so far outside of my understanding and my knowing, and I'm so excited about it because we're going to talk about dreams, and I know nothing about my dreams, and half the time they freak me out. So we have Erin Amundsen on today, who is a depth therapist. Is that correct?
Yeah, depth therapist.
Yep. And she, her whole life, is my understanding, had loved understanding dreams, and now she incorporates it into her practice. And I'm so grateful that you're here with us to talk about dreams and give some insight. I just can't even stand it. So thanks for being here.
You're welcome. It's absolutely a pleasure. It's one of my favorite topics, so I am excited to get into it.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun. I have so many questions. So, as always, though, we start the show with gratitude, because gratitude can change the world. Super important to start your day just being thankful for the amazing things that you have. That's what I try to do every day. I try to do it at night when I go to bed. Sometimes I write it down. Sometimes I'm just thinking about it. But gratitude is what music. Every time. I always say that every time I do something that's going to mess up the techie stuff. There we go. Music's down. I need my list of to-dos before I start the show is what I need.
Lots of manage.
It's just ridiculous. Every time, 2.5 years, I always forget to turn the music down. Anyway, so gratitude, back to it. I'm grateful for Henry, who tells me what to do when I mess things up. That's where I am. But having that gratitude, especially in the place where we are now, where there's lots of fear and anxiety, and there's just kind of craziness going on, and knowing that there's so many things to be grateful for, and that is just amazing and beautiful about this life, I just get so excited. You know, I try not to let the weird stuff get me down. I just am grateful for where we are, and if I do start to feel it, I take myself out of it. I'm like, it's not worth it. Let's find what we're grateful for, because there's so much. So I'll stop rambling. Erin, what are you grateful for today?
You know what? I lately have been really grateful for the simple things, and I had a really good night's sleep last night, so I'm grateful for that. And then I would say in general, I've got a lot of amazing people in my life, including my clients. So people who are actively working to be better, to become more whole. My friendship circle is full of beautiful women who are digging deep and wanting to do really good things in the world to make things easier for others. So that's where I'm at today. I'm grateful for those two things.
That's amazing, and I talk about that a lot. Just having the show, and then having my own support system, but then access to the close friends, but then those who are out there like you, who are out there working their asses off to say, I'm here to serve. I'm here to do big things so I can help others do big things. And that's what I want to do. I want to be the best person I can, the biggest person I can, the healthiest person I can, because in that I had the ability to serve and to guide and to help others be their biggest, their bestest, their amazingest, and all of the things that we're meant to do. You know, when we don't feel good, when we have, you know, whether it's physical or mental and emotional, you know, heaviness, it's hard to do the things for others because you're just trying to get through your day and you're just trying to survive. And that's no way of living this life, right? I think I was unplugged. So, awesome. What am I grateful for? I love the sleep thing. I've been sleeping really well and getting up really early. I was up at 4:30 a couple of days ago, but I get so much done when I get up early. I'm like, that's amazing. Good for me. So I love good sleep. I love, I know what I'm grateful for. I have finally finished planting my garden, and it still has some work to do, but I love eating out of my garden, and every day for lunch, I take my plate outside and I pick my vegetables and I pick my lettuce and I pick whatever I have, and that's what I have for lunch. And it makes me so happy. I can't even stand it. So here we are at that time of year again where I can go pick my lunch every day.
That's amazing. You know, both of my parents are avid gardeners, and I did not get the green thumb. In fact, I once pulled up a row of plants in my dad's garden when he was paying me to weed. So I mean, I absolutely admire and love people who are talented at gardening and appreciate it, because I too love the fresh garden and produce.
Oh, it's so fun. Well, I bet you could do, you know, like pot gardening. That would be pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
Having a tomato and having some pretty lettuce, that would be easy.
I could give that a try.
Yeah. It is fun though. It literally has become one of my favorite things, and what I look forward to is, you know, so two things. When I meditate, when the sun's out, I go outside in the sun, and that's what helps me to calm and to just focus. And it makes me so happy just to lay outside and meditate. The second thing that I love, which is also to me a little bit of a form of meditation, is just going and picking stuff, picking it and knowing how fresh it is. There is a component, I don't know what it is, and I can't remember where I saw this, and so I need to find it, because I've referenced it a couple of times, but I'm not saying what it is. But there's a component to vegetables and fruit when they are ripened fully on the vine that is beneficial to the body, that we don't get from food, you know, like from the grocery store and that kind of thing, because they have to pick it early. So that component isn't there. So it's not truly as nutrient dense as it should be or could be. And so I need to find out what that is, but it's so interesting knowing when something's ripe and knowing that you're getting the full benefit from it just off the vine and the full nutrient density. It's cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like something to be grateful for right there.
Yeah, super grateful for that. You know, God's good. He knows what he's doing. And I'm like, okay, I get it.
Cool.
All right, so let's talk a little bit, or a lot of it, about you. How, you know, who you are. And it's this is what I like to say, because it's true. It's the who you are, why you are, what excites you, what are the things that brought you to where you are, who do you like to serve, how did you get into dreams, and then we'll just get into the meat and have some fun.
Yeah, so, you know, my path as a healer started early in life. I went through some early childhood sexual trauma and had a lot of fallout from that. So I had eating disorders. As a teenager, I had addictive behaviors. You know, I was sort of seeking relief through drugs and alcohol and all kinds of self-defeating, really self-harming behaviors. But when I left and went to college, I don't know what happened, but at that phase in my life, I got away from my family, who I love, who I'm very close to, but in my process of becoming an individual, I realized there had to be another way. And actually, my mom also saw my struggles, didn't know about what had happened to me when I was young. It was actually like outside of, you know, our home. And brought me a session with a shaman when I was like 19 years old.
Wow.
And, you know, I was sort of like, whatever, Mom, and I was hesitant to do it, and finally I went because the shaman called me and said, "Are you going to come, or do I need to refund your mom's money?" And I was like, all right, I'll do it. And so that was my initiation into really the spiritual realm. But even before that, as a teenager, I was writing down my dreams, and I had a dream dictionary in the house. It was actually my mom's, but I would steal it. And I was very fascinated with what's happening in these storylines that are popping up while I'm sleeping. And at that time, I didn't know much about it beyond my fascination. But as I moved through kind of, my adult life, I started to read books. I started to learn more. I started to read about the many indigenous people's use of dreams and vision work. And I started to understand that dreams are actually a very powerful form of messenger from our subconscious. So I love, Nikki, that you said, like, I know nothing about dreams and I always wonder what they mean, and so many people say that. And that's part of what fuels my passion, because this is a resource that is available to all of us on a regular basis. And I know some people are going to ask, what if you don't remember your dreams? There are ways of doing that, and we can get into that later if that's interesting. But if you're not remembering your dreams, you can engage them. And most people can. And it's really about, how do I decode the message? So what I've learned is that, for example, maybe let's say I'm working with a client and they've set a conscious intention. So to go with what you do, let's say my conscious intention is that I want more nutrition in my life. I want to, eat healthier, put healthier things in my body, maybe move more. I want to be healthier. And how many times do you see people make that intention and fail over and over and over? What the subconscious and what dreams will do in that context, if you're paying attention, your dreams will actually deliver you the reason why you're failing.
Oh, wow.
So it may be a block, an emotional block from childhood, and so you need to eat a certain thing to cope, but you don't even realize that's what you're doing. And it could be any other number of things, but that's just one example of how dreams work. So I'm going to say, I'm going to put it out to the universe, right? I want to maybe be healthier. I want to get fit. And then my dreams are going to give me, in my case, it might be little snippets of unresolved trauma from childhood. So it might be kind of a nightmare that's not directly related to the trauma, but it's representing a part of my subconscious that is still functioning from that point. Mm-hmm. And so then I know, because I understand how to work with and decode dreams, okay, if I really want to get fit, I'm probably going to have to address my trauma again from a different angle or on a deeper level, because that's part of that. So what I found is that it's a really efficient way to work with people in the mental health realm. And frankly, most, if not all of my clients have done a ton of therapy before they ever come to me. And it always comes saying, like, I was just hoping there was something more. Yeah. And then we get, wow, there's this whole other layer that is 95% of our brain, our subconscious, that is our operating system. So the reason that I refer to it as technology is that it really is like the hard drive of our humanity. And it stored programs from childhood, from culture, from family, that we don't even realize we're running. And we have the potential to either really, really limit us in life, or actually really inspire and set us free and connect us to our gifts and our inner empowerment. So it was really my own learning that led me down the path of helping others, and really the healer aspect of seeking out things that would help me because I was in trouble. Yeah. And then realizing a bit later in life, oh, this is meant to be shared with the world in some way.
Isn't that interesting? I forgot my pen because I keep wanting to write down things because I have like 3 questions in my head, 3 comments. One though is just for your information. As you move away from your mic, we lose you.
Oh, that's so closer.
It was just a little bit, but just wanted to let you know. 2, one of my comments is as I work with clients, and when I bring clients in, I do as any practitioner does, I do an intake, and it's a really big, significant intake. It's very comprehensive, but it asks about trauma, and I am every time floored and saddened by the amount of trauma, whether it's spousal trauma or sexual trauma or, all of the different traumas that can happen in a person's life. It's heartbreaking. And until I got into doing what I'm doing and digging into people's history so I can, help them in the ways that I help, I was shocked at how much trauma there is, and then how much people don't know how to deal with it. And I don't know how to help, which is why I have great people who I refer to.
Yeah.
But it's shocking. I mean, that's really just more of a comment than anything else. So if there's anybody out there, if you have had any kind of trauma, I think even if you think you're past it, look for somebody to help to guide you with it and help you to continue to get past it. It's so hard and amazingly hard.
Yeah.
Another thing that you had said is going back to you. I don't remember how you said it, but you said family history, and it made me think of epigenetics. I'm assuming you know the term epigenetics.
Yeah, I do a lot of work with that, actually. Yeah.
Okay, cool. This is kind of a fun. This is so interesting to me. I deal with epigenetics in my practice. So for a little bit of a science lesson, if you haven't heard this before, epigenetics is essentially locations on genes that have the ability to turn on and off, and they turn on and off in most cases due to lifestyle factors. And in my world, in functional nutrition, when we're dealing with autoimmune conditions, GI conditions, cardiovascular health, diabetes, all of these things, it's due to the lifestyle that we lead. So there's only 3 to 5% of the diseases that we deal with that are truly genetic conditions, but most of the other ones are based on how we live our life, and which is a little bit scary, but also gives us an amazing amount of control. And this is what excites me. It's control and it's accountability. And not everybody likes accountability, but that's what it is. It's what we put in our body, what we put on our body, what we're in our environment, how we handle our stress, how we sleep. All of these things are so important to building a healthy body, because epigenetically these things will turn these variants on and off. Now, to go deeper than that, and what I love is the health that we have now is based upon, in part, the health of 7 generations behind us. And then the health of us now impacts the health of 7 generations ahead of us. So this is part of, and I'm going to just do a quick plug here because I think it plays in well, but I am doing a course called Soulful Conception, and it is fully so much based on getting healthy now, because when you're ready to create, right? When you're ready to come together and create that baby, your health now, as well as the health of 7 generations past, but your health now will create the health of that child and then the health of generations to come. So you want to be as healthy mentally, emotionally, physically as you possibly can, because the cool thing is, as sick of a society as we are now, as unhealthy as we are, we have the control to take this health back and create a healthy future. I mean, it's all right here in our little hands, and I just think it's amazing and cool. So I'll stop talking about that, because what I want to ask you about, and I felt like I needed to kind of say all that, but is we have trauma genes, epigenome, essentially, right? And so variants or SNPs can be turned on based on trauma, and it can be from a family trauma early in our history prior to our being alive, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have a great story about that, to kind of mirror, what you're talking about with health. So this would be like the trauma healing piece of epigenetics. So in addition to doing dream work, I do a lot of other modalities in the subconscious. So I look at past lives. I'm an astrologer. I'm a regressionist and a hypnotherapist. So I've just been fascinated with the subconscious for a long time, and I've studied and trained, whatever I can get my hands on, just as a passion. So years ago, I had an astrology client, and I was reading her birth chart, and she didn't tell me anything about her life or her history, but I very clearly kept getting this image of really, people stuck in a concentration camp in World War II, and like being in the medical experiments that were happening, especially with women, right? So that flash just kept coming, and my intuition is very mental. So for me to actually, I was kind of seeing a picture, a glimpse, that was new for me, like to see something as a little bit of a vision flash, and then having the storyline come through mentally about, this experimentation. And so I felt a little awkward about it, right? And I shared it with her anyway, because I was like, I'm just going to trust this. I don't know what she's going to say. She might think I'm crazy. Mm-hmm. And it turned out that she is the descendant of Jewish Holocaust victims. And so I did this reading. She went back and did a little bit of genealogy. Her sister had already been doing that, and really traced some things back, and found out, like, in fact, yes, that is a thing. She then started to have nightmares, and came back to me and was like, "What? I don't know what to do about this. Like, ever since I've unlocked this information, I'm having repeat nightmares of trauma. That is, she actually gave birth and had a cesarean maybe 9 months before we met, and that storyline kept coming up in her dreams, and it was just like living the trauma of the cesarean over and over that she had brushed off, because our culture tells us, right, get over it. Right, yeah. Cesareans happen all the time. That's not a real trauma. You have a healthy baby. You're healthy. You're both alive. Move on. But that event had turned on the trauma of her ancestry, of women who were being cut open and having their reproductive organs, completely messed with in terms of research, in an incredibly traumatic experience. I'm sure, I can't even imagine, but most of us are familiar with some of those stories. And so we worked through her nightmares then to bring her epigenetic healing. Wow. And she was able to let go of the trauma of her cesarean, as well as the trauma that she had been carrying subconsciously from her lineage. And her life changed. I mean, everything about her. And she's also, she was, I think, studying to become a therapist, and that was something that was really in her way in terms of being all that she could be, right, as a certified healer in the world. Mm-hmm. So it absolutely happens, on health levels. It happens with addiction, and certainly with trauma and mental health as well. So the interesting thing about what I found about working with epigenetics is that it's hard to turn around. I don't even know if it's possible to turn around in our conscious mind, because it's not where it's sourced. Right. It is sourced in the subconscious, so we have to get there in order to really work with it, in my experience.
Yeah. So interesting and so cool. Okay, so I want to just dig into dreams. I don't really know how to start it, so I think I'm going to let you start it, because I do have questions about it. But when you're working, I guess my question would be, when you're working with people and you're working with their dreams, what does that look like? What are you doing? How do you know what dreams mean?
Yeah,
that's a lot of questions.
So I don't purvey to know what anybody else's dream means. Okay. And so I teach dream therapy to graduate students in counseling, and I work with I really do a lot with this. Basically, the dream is coming to us when our conscious mind is asleep and our subconscious mind is awake and active. And that all has to deal with brain waves. You talked about meditation. So I would say you and I right now are in what we call a beta brainwave, and that is your conscious, logical thinking mind that is keeping track and is intelligent and aware, and that's thinking, right? We're thinking. If you start to slow down your brain as you're falling asleep, for example, or in meditation, that brainwave turns into an alpha or a theta or a delta. And all of those, anything slower than beta, tunes into your subconscious mind. So a big part of how I work with people is I have them bring a dream and share the dream, and then I engage them in either meditation or hypnosis or relaxation technique to slow their brainwave down to at least alpha, which is kind of the state of mind you're in when you're daydreaming. You're just sort of relaxed and lost. You're still aware and lucid. And most people in general feel safe, being in that state of mind in a therapy session. Some people like to go deeper right away or just naturally do. And then we actually re-enter the dream and engage it from that level. So we can go and start asking questions about what a particular aspect of the dream is representing in this person's life. And the information that comes through is absolutely amazing. And it's so simple. It's real. So everyone that's listening right now could probably do this if you've ever meditated or done yoga or daydreamed. You can sit, you can slow that mind down in whatever way you do. You read back through your dream and just sort of pick the thing that stands out to you. So it might be, I had a dream about a swimming pool and I was in the deep end and somebody else was in the shallow end, and well, the pool stands out to me. So I can actually have a bit of a dialogue with the pool and start asking questions about why it's there. What does it represent? What's the meaning behind this? And for me, I might get, oh, well, you're in the deep end, think about that. So where in life, you're struggling, you're in the deep end, you're about to drown because you're taking on too much. And you've done this before and you know this pattern and you're doing it again. And then I can come out of that and say, wow, I just took on too much. I need to start saying no to some things, right? Because what happens when I get in this state always ends up in some self-destructive way, right? For example. Somebody else could have the same dream about a pool in a deep end, and it might mean a very different thing to them. But for somebody else, it might mean you're being invited to dig deeper into your, subconscious, or you're being invited to dig deeper into your emotions. You've been too shallow. Now you're in the deep end, right? So you can see two different people having the same dream with two different outcomes, which is why I don't use dream dictionaries. I don't offer interpretation. I really am guiding people through a process that then they can use on their own at home.
So are you saying that everyone's unique? Whoa. Sorry, did you hear that?
A little bit, yeah.
I can hear me in your. That's weird. I'm not sure what's going on.
How's that?
I think better. Oh, much better. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So my question was, are you saying that everybody's unique?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, the fun thing about that, and I'm going to maybe contradict a little bit, is that when I work in groups with dreams, everyone kind of gets to engage the process. So, like, I might share a pool dream, and everybody in the group is going to do this meditation and kind of find out. And sometimes people in the group will have nuggets and gems of information for the dreamer, or other times the dream that wasn't my own dream, let's say, has given me this huge download of wisdom. And so the indigenous people of all over the place, shared a lot of common beliefs, and one of them was that the dream is everyone's dream. So one person's dream belongs to the tribe, because we can all relate archetypally to the feeling, or we all know what a swimming pool is, and we all have associations to that. So yeah, everyone is unique, and sometimes when I lead a group, there will be 3 or 4 people who have the exact same experience of a dream, and they haven't talked about it or connected with each other. And that's always really fascinating to me, that there's something bringing them together in that moment to have a shared experience, and grow from that.
That's really cool. So I teach. Well, when I teach or when I talk or when I'm talking with clients, whatever it is, it's everybody's unique, and so it's in every single way, and I think it's a lesson to be learned for everybody out there in whatever situation you're in. Know that you are not like anybody else. You are unique in your thoughts, in your processes, in your physical health, in your mental and emotional health. I don't care if you have a twin that lives under the same roof as you. You are different, and things are different for you. So I think it's, when you're working with people, if it's, working with a therapist or working with someone like me or working with your doctor, if someone is treating you like they treat everybody else, then maybe consider looking outside of that, because you are special and unique. And I think it's important to remember that and know that if you go on a diet, which I hate that word, it's a 4-letter word, but if you go on a diet and it doesn't work for you, but it works for somebody else, why is that? It's because you're different than everybody else, and that's the way that it's supposed to be, and it's beautiful. It also makes things a little more difficult, but that's part of life. So that's why we have jobs, because we like to dig, right?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And in fact, a lot of the work that I do is helping people let go of, the family and cultural expectations to be like everybody else, because it's painful. It's painful to try to fit inside of a box that is too tight, or, So.
Yeah, agreed. So I'm going to ask you this question, knowing that this is not intended to be a therapy session, but I think I have a dream. It's very short and simple, and I'm not asking you to read it. If you tell me that's stupid, I can't do this right now, then that's totally
fine. Not like it's stupid. No, I'll never say that about dreams.
It's just the weirdest thing, though, and I have it a lot. I haven't had it in a while, but it's gum. I'm chewing gum, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and I have to pull it out and throw it away, and then it comes back. And I don't even chew gum.
Yeah. Well, I'll just be curious with you.
Yeah.
What's the feeling that you're having as you're like having to pull it out and it's coming back?
Embarrassment and frustration.
Okay.
Because I have to hide. Yeah.
So this is like a really simple, I'm going to give you a couple of really simple ways to look at dreams, just in the interest of anyone listening who might want to also try this stuff out. So the first thing would be, look at the feelings in your dream and then say, like, where are these feelings sourced, either in my present life or in my past? Mm-hmm. So here's something really fascinating about the subconscious that I think everyone should know. Between the ages of birth and 7 years old to about 9 or 10 years old, the prefrontal cortex is not developed. So our conscious thinking, filtering brain is not online yet. Everything that happens in our environment is getting stored in the subconscious. So if you have any kind of like early childhood trauma or certain expectations from your parents or ways of behaving that have kind of been projected into you, you're functioning from that level until you become conscious that it's there. And for most of us, some people have nothing good there. They have these very horrific, traumatic childhoods. But for many of us, we have a lot of good stuff that's been instilled in us, right? Like value systems and how to keep ourselves safe and maybe unconditional love, and all those things are amazing. But I would guarantee that all of us have something there that maybe doesn't belong. For example, I gave my kindergarten teacher a Christmas gift, 6 years old, and she gave it back to me and told me I can't accept that. And I'm a 6-year-old, I have no idea why, I don't know, but all I know is that I'm ashamed. So now, I might have dreams that have an element of shame in them. And I could do, I've done some work on this. This actually was a memory that surfaced, a bit later in life as I was doing some work that, one of the adults in my life that I looked up to and loved the most as a 6-year-old rejected me. That's not even a big deal, right? We think of that as like, well, whatever. That's not a trauma. But I absorbed shame over that experience. So for you, it would be like, where's embarrassment and where's frustration? Either in your day-to-day right now, or where can you trace it into your past as a way of starting?
Interesting.
You don't necessarily have to answer that, but that's one. And then the second thing would be, here's what else I would have you do that's very simple. Take the word gum and like write it on a whiteboard or a piece of paper in the middle, and then do kind of like a spoked wheel association. First thought, best thought. So gum, sticky, chewy, I don't know, whatever adjectives come up, like whatever your associations are, and then you might look at where those associations have some kind of a place in your life, right? So sticky, ooh, I think it's something feeling sticky to me. But again, it would be your associations and your questions. And that's just a really easy, basic way to get started. The emotions of the dream, where you would source those, and then the associations from one part of the dream. You could also associate chewing or pulling, right? You could do any of the aspects there, or all of them. Cool.
So interesting. Thank you for that. I am always so curious about that, so I'll have to go home and start diagramming.
Yeah. Yeah, and even, I love that embarrassment is such an interesting feeling, right? And it's closely, it might have been closely linked to shame for me. Like, oh, I did something, I'm embarrassed, and now, you know, I feel the need to kind of hide, or, you know, I don't know how it is for you, but that would be one that I would dive into a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure that there's something there that would be interesting to dig in and uncover, because oh, I have a phone call. Sorry. Let's see. Go away. I should have turned that off. I didn't even think about it. I'm going to do that now. All right. I could just answer the phone. Why not?
Yeah, maybe it's somebody calling in.
Right. So it is probably maybe the dream that I have the most.
Let me say something about that really quick, if I could, because it's a recurring dream, and that's a certain type of dream. And what that means to me is that it's been an ongoing bit of your experience that your subconscious is trying to get your attention about.
Ah.
So here's the fascinating thing with recurring dreams. Once you resolve whatever it is that your subconscious is wanting you to resolve or integrate, the dream stops or changes.
Okay.
So it might be that you have that dream again, but you're just chewing a little bit of gum and you spit it out, right? And then it's like the finale. Or it may be that you just, like, that dream goes away because you figured out what the message is and you know, integrated it into your life.
So many things to think about.
Yeah.
I have to figure that out. Awesome. I'm going to take a quickie break because I need to talk about our sponsor and how amazing they are. So, and you'll like this because we had a little bit of this conversation prior to the show. But Cellcore Biosciences is our sponsor. They're amazing at what they do. They are one of the best and one of the most innovative when it comes to supplements that address the foundation of health. And when I say the foundation, I'm talking mitochondrial function. I'm talking about cellular health and genetic health. You know, so it goes deep into the cell and addresses those things that are most hindering our health. And a lot of times, the reason that I think this is important, because a lot of those times there are things that we're dealing with that we don't understand and that maybe don't even come up on labs. Labs are my probably top #1 favorite thing to run on people, because it allows me to see how the body is functioning. It allows me to hear essentially what your body's trying to say. And it's on a piece of paper, and I can show my clients, and you can see, and then we can gather data, and it's amazing. But what sometimes labs, you know, labs are not 100%. There are things that don't come up on labs that maybe so there are things that don't come up on labs that still need to be addressed. And that's what Cellcore does. And so in part, they're working on the crazy amount of infection that a lot of us have in our bodies. Infection, whether it's bacterial, yeast, parasitic, worms. These are things that can really create a problem on the body, but worms rarely come up on labs. I've done tons of labs, and I've had worms come up on one lab, ever. So, but I've seen a lot of them. So, just being aware of that, and I know it's super gross, and it's a horrible thing to think about, but a lot of what we're dealing with are things that we don't know are there. And it's not normal for it to be there, and we don't eat the way that we used to, that is, you know, bringing in and incorporating antimicrobial herbs and gut building foods and these things that are, you know, from the earth, that are intended to keep us healthy and to fight any kind of bacterial or parasitic infection. And sometimes they can just take over, and, you know, we live in a world where we're just eating food that does not build us up, it only tears us down. And so my goal is to always look for the root cause of symptoms, as well as then address the foundation of health and allow people to repair and to balance from the bottom up. And I think it's a really important way of looking at the body, looking at biochemical individuality, and helping a person. Again, it goes back to being their very best. When you feel good, when you're motivated, when you're excited, you can actually be your best. You can get out there and you can do all the things that God put you here to do. So, Cellcore, I was like, who am I talking about? Cellcore is amazing. I love what they're about, and their delivery system is what makes them unique, and so they're great at what they do. So thank you, Cellcore, for being a sponsor, and we appreciate you. And let's move on. Okay, so I think that maybe when I'm looking at my notes here, and maybe what I want to hit on, and you talked a little bit about it, but I know a lot of times in our, and in my own experience, I know I have blocks, and those are things that I'm working on, and I don't really even truly understand what that means, but I'm working on addressing them, and it's really that digging and that uncovering, and my understanding would be that dreams can help us to understand blocks. It can help us understand resistance. It can help us to be a guide, right, in what we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish. How do you work with people? I mean, do you see that I assume you see people become unblocked once they can, again, it's getting down to that foundation, right, or that root cause.
Yeah, I mean, I love what you were saying during your shout out to Cellcore about looking at the root, right? So I'm hearing you, and I'm like kind of lighting up inside. I'm like, oh, here's somebody who wants to get to the root of the physical cause of illness. Mm-hmm. I'm someone who wants to get to the root of the mental cause of illness, right? And I don't tend to call it mental illness, but just to kind of line up with what you're saying. So I'll just give you another quick example of one of my experiences recently. So I had 2 dreams in a row in which there were somebody else's dog in the dream that I was responsible for taking care of. One, I was supposed to walk around this farm and find this dog and take it for a walk, and I couldn't find it, and it was really difficult, and ended up not walking the dog, even though it was my responsibility. And another was like a little puppy that got out into the street, and it was going to drown in this flood, and I had to go out and rescue it. But again, somebody else rescued it. I couldn't get to it. And I did a little bit of work with those dogs in kind of just like communicating in the way that I described earlier. And what came out of that was that I had been blocking myself by trying too hard to take care of other people's stuff. Mm-hmm. And that was applying to my partner, to my parents, to my niece, and to some extent to my clients. Like I had gotten into this almost codependent, it's not really codependent, but like I had taken the helper role a bit too far. Yeah. And I was really neglecting a lot of my own needs and starting to get cranky and starting to, have these issues and have this feeling of reduced confidence, and I wasn't sure about where that was coming from, but really the block was that. So as soon as I did that work and had that recognition, I was able to make a change and pull back and really tune back into myself, and then move forward with more of a keen observation of when I'm doing that. So when I'm like giving too much, and sometimes the people I'm giving it to don't even actually want it. Right. It's like it's too much all around. Yeah. And I can kind of pull back and, free up a whole bunch of mental energy. So my creativity is coming back, and my playfulness, and all of these aspects of life that I really love that were starting to fade away. And my dreams were right there to give me this kind of strange story, about taking care of dogs. Mm-hmm. But they're really related to my caretaking in general. So that's an example, and that would be how I work with clients too. People often recognize their blocks, and that's one thing, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like you can come in and say, I really want to, start my own business, but I'm too terrified. That's an obvious block. Sure, yeah. And we can start from that level and dig in to the subconscious through dreams, through astrology, through regression, through a number of methods, and find out what's happening there, right? Because most people that I work with have an awareness of what's happening in their consciousness. They're self-aware people. Mm-hmm. Or somebody can come in with a frustration that they are not really aware of. Like you said, I know I have blocks, but I don't always know what they are. And so it might be more of a question of like, well, I say that I want to get up and meditate every morning, and I know it's good for me, but I'm just not doing it. And what's the block? Or I keep saying I want to launch this business, but like I can't seem to get myself to do the one thing I need to do to get going. What's happening? I don't know why. We can start from there as well and go into the subconscious and say, okay, where's the limitation? Does that kind of describe the?
Yeah, I just find it. It's so fascinating that you can dig. It still is this sort of far out there, hard to grasp concept that I just think is so, like I said, amazing and fascinating. That you, and I guess because I know that I'm going through it myself at this point, is trying to understand my blocks. Why do I have blocks? What are they from? Where are they coming from? What, I think that I'm pretty well balanced, and but I know that they're there.
Well, 95% of the brain, that either holds potential, dreams, like life pathways, strengths, or epigenetic blocks, past life blocks, early childhood blocks, right? So, when you say it's this concept that's kind of just are out there, and I mean, it is nebulous because it's the subconscious. The subconscious is absolutely nebulous. So we have to find ways of inviting the subconscious into the conversation.
Yeah.
So for you, or anyone like you who still feels like, wow, this dream concept is so far out, but I'd like a way to work with my blocks, you could do the same kind of process that I described earlier. You could quiet down your brain, get into a meditation, and start asking questions. To be like, I'm aware of this block, and I want to look at this block, or I want to feel it. I want to just kind of be with it in terms of what I do know. And that may only just be a sensation, and the sensation could be like, my body feels a little tight, or it could be an emotion that comes up, or it could be just the frustration of being blocked. And then you could start asking, if you had a picture block, what would the picture be? If you had a word, what would the word be? So you could do this communicate. It's called active imagination, and Carl Jung is known for developing it, but many healers use this and have used it around the world. So you really are you're having a dialogue with a part of your subconscious, basically. And you're allowing, again, like first thought, best thought. A lot of people worry, I'm making it up, right? It's like my brain is just making up this storyline. In my experience, 99% of the time, people are getting accurate information if they are able to just trust and let go that that's what's happening. So there will be some kind of guidance and some recognition of where this block is coming from without even engaging a dream. You can do this.
It's interesting that you say that, because as I move through my own journey, as well as talk with people like you and others who have been on the show who are just amazing at what you do, that comes up so much. And I've had people tell me, talk to your business, sit there with your eyes closed, and it's a really great way, I think, to meditate, because people tell me all the time, I can't meditate, my brain always goes. Everybody's brain always goes. That's why it's called a practice. It's once you put out there that you can't do it, well you can't, and you won't, right? And so I never thought I could meditate either, and that's exactly what I started doing, was to just sit and be still. And this is what I tell my clients: sit and be still for 5 minutes in the morning and the evening. That's all that you start with. But it's also, having, it's a, they'll say focus on your breath, or do a guided meditation, so you have somebody guiding you, or, an app guiding you, or whatever it is. But I also feel like, and what I have been doing recently also, is sitting there, of course, in the sun, and in my meditation, it's what do I need to know? And is it, what does my business need me to know? And I'm also, it's a prayerful, it's a for me, it's a communication with God. It's a help me know what it is that there is. And what you're saying sort of takes it to another level, a deeper level. Is there more about, what's going on that I need to know? And I think taking those simple tools and using them. And when you're focusing just on that one thing, what do I need to know? What do I need to know? What is my business trying to tell me? What is my block?
What is my block trying to tell me?
Yeah.
Could be another great question, right? Sometimes
exactly.
we're blocked as a protective measure because we're not ready for whatever's coming, or we need to, do a little tune-up or something before we get to where we want to go.
Yeah, I think having that in your mind is a great way of quieting the rest of it. And it's not always going to work. So sometimes your mind's just gonna go, and you keep trying until maybe you say, okay, I'm done, and I'll try again later or tomorrow or whatever it is. But keep trying. And I love the interesting part of meditation is not, well, it's so much of about it is interesting, but the data behind the biochemical changes that meditation can create for a body, bringing it into the calm, into the parasympathetic, the rest and digest, away from the stress and the craziness and the fight or flight mode that all of us seem to stay in, that's so damaging and so detrimental. But bringing it into this place where you are calm, even if you don't feel like it's doing anything for you, I promise you it is. Just do it.
I also like to offer people the idea of like a moving meditation or an active meditation. Yeah. So for people who really struggle, if you play music, that can be a meditation. Mm-hmm. If you like to go for a walk or a hike or a swim, you can set the intention like, I'm going to focus just on this movement. Mm-hmm. And if your mind has something very simple to focus on, it will slow down and quiet down. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's just one other little tidbit there that I do a lot of somatic work with dreams too. So like, for example, the dog dream, right? Like I would embody the little dog that's drowning and feel what it's like to be in that body and move around and, like let my body get the feeling of what's happening, right? So
that sounds terrible.
Again, dreams have so many elements, right?
Okay,
so
yeah.
I figured out in that dream about overextending myself, but I might also look at, if I were this puppy, like where's the drowning coming from? Like what's that feeling like in my body, and what am I relating that to?
Yeah.
And maybe that is related to giving too much and I'm drowning myself. I don't know. I mean, I'm just sort of spitballing here, but yeah, move if you need to, or engage something. Stare at a candle flame or a fire, right? If you need to give your mind a little bit of a distraction, find something that is very simple to focus on and see if that works. If you're not able to just sort of sit with your breath, which many people struggle with.
Yeah. So could you do that? So if somebody, and you might have said this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. You have a dream that you don't understand. Can you take that into a meditation and say, what is this dream trying to tell me?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's really, you could look it up, active imagination. There are books written on it, there are steps written out, but it's really that simple. Meditate. I'm a writer, so I like to write. I do kind of like an automatic writing. I ask a question and then I write whatever's coming through. For like 2 minutes, I just let my pen go, even if it doesn't seem to make sense, and then I can pull out, what the message is in that moment in time for me. Wow. So the dream is delivered from the subconscious again. So we have to go back into the subconscious if we really want to communicate there. We have to allow our brain. That's why I really like the alpha brainwave, because we've got both our conscious and our subconscious active at the same time.
Oh.
And once you begin that communication, that line of communication, it opens up tremendously for most people. So I'm halfway through teaching a dreams class with these counseling students, and I keep getting messages from them because they're just in awe, right? They're like, I'm getting more and more of my intuition on board. Like there are all these synchronicities happening, and my dreams are really full of this. And it's because the subconscious actually wants to be a guide for us, but we've been trained away from it, right?
Yeah.
Again, the indigenous cultures around the world in the past really, they knew the power of this. They engaged it all the time for their healing practices and to understand when to plant crops and everything, right? They lived by it. We in our modern culture have decided that that's, hogwash and it's woo-woo or it's whatever, and so we've dismissed it as important. When in my world, it is actually the most important part of the mind.
Yeah.
The most powerful.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you the question, alpha, is this what meditation is alpha, where or hypnosis?
Yeah, so hypnosis goes a little bit deeper. It's more the theta.
Okay.
In hypnosis, your conscious mind is almost completely sleeping, and delta is sleep. So it goes beta, alpha, theta, delta.
Okay.
In terms of fast to slow. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to memorize those. There's charts online if you want to look at the names. You can just Google brainwave chart. Mm-hmm. But yeah, alpha really is more. It's sort of a light meditative, maybe creative state. So it's not hypnosis. It's not as deep as that. But it is when you're sort of feeling relaxed in meditation, but you're still aware, right? So you still might hear the bee buzzing by your head if you're sitting in the garden or whatever.
Okay, cool. I don't hit it as often as I'd like, but that really deep meditation is such a interesting, cool place to be when I can get there. Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah, and I think for most people it's easier to get there when you have a guide of some kind. I know that's the case with me. If I've got someone else facilitating, it helps. Yeah,
cool. So I want to make sure that we have talked about everything that you want to talk about. We've only got 5 minutes, which is, I know every time, and I think I say it every time. It just flies by. It's such a good conversation. But I want to make sure too that people know where to find you. So if there's anything else that you want to talk about, I know you do these dream groups, and retreats and all of these cool things that you do. I want to hear more about that.
Yeah. So, gosh, this fall in November 3rd through 6th, I'm doing the first dream retreat that I've done in 3.5 years. Probably like a lot of people who, I tried doing some things online with it, and I just didn't like it personally. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff out there online, but I was not able to go as deep as I wanted to go. So I'm super excited about that. That is in Colorado, a little mountain town called Twin Lakes, about 2.5 hours drive from Denver. And, I haven't even, this is probably the first time that I'm actually putting it out there, like marketing-wise, and it's half full already. And so if that's something anyone listening is interested in, I would love to just have a chat with you and tell you more about what we're doing. We dive really deep. We do a lot of playful fun, little workshops, breakouts into the subconscious with our dreams. It's a really small group. It's 12 people maximum, so it's very intimate, and people come out of those weekends changed somehow every time, and for the better, right? So happier, or having removed some big blocks, or having tuned into the next direction for life. So it was super fun. I'm very, very excited to be doing that again. And I don't do a lot on social media. I do a lot more word of mouth and personally. So my website is naturaldreamfec.com, and you can actually sign up for a consultation call through my calendar link there, or you can reach out to me via email. It's Erin@erinamundsen.com, and you can look at the show notes for the spelling. You got my name spelled right. So those are kind of the two ways of getting a hold of me. My client caseload's pretty full right now, but if you are interested in what I do there and maybe want to check that out, you could also sign up for a consult call and get more information. And I think that's it. That's all. I don't have anything else kind of big on board in terms of my offerings. What I do in the fall, I'm sort of working on an intuitive writing group that is not dream-based necessarily, but with the aim of getting us into our subconscious mind outside of dream work. So that's online, and I've done that a few times over the last couple of years, and it's been really great. So
very cool.
That's what I have going on.
Very cool. And so, just to for the sake of clarity, your retreat is live, but you do virtual consultations, yeah?
Yes, my practice in terms of one-on-one is all virtual.
Yeah.
Retreats are live. And if you want to just be notified about the live stuff that I'm doing, I will be doing maybe some one-day things in Denver. I'm working on a continuing education series for counselors and therapists. So if that's you and you're interested in this as continuing ed, reach out. And hoping to expand that into other professions as well, that just people that are interested in how we can apply understanding the subconscious to health generally, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual health. And so it's not just limited to dreams once again, but really harvesting the information that we're carrying around unknown to us, and facilitating that communication between our conscious and subconscious.
Amazing. Well, this was, I knew it would be eye-opening, but it's so fascinating. There's so many aspects of our lives that I think that we take for granted, or that we brush off and we don't see as, information. And I think that it's there's so much that we still don't know about the brain and about the subconscious, and that, and when we do have the tools to kind of take it and harness it and use it, and I just think it's the most interesting and the most fun thing, and I'm grateful that you came on. And
yeah, thank you for having me, Nikki. This has been really fun.
Yeah. We'll have to do it again, because I think that we could go deeper into this and really kind of have some fun with it. So, of course, this is Taste Life Nutrition Radio. My company, my practice is Taste Life Nutrition. You can find me every Thursday here, streaming live on KUHS Denver. We're also streaming live, of course, on the Taste Life Nutrition Facebook page. We're Taste Life Nutrition on all of the social media. And you can go to my website and fill out a free assessment, and that assessment will come straight to me and will give me some good understanding of what could be going on with you. If you have some symptoms that you're not sure what's going on, if you have been to practitioner after practitioner after practitioner and still having some troubles, happy to chat through that with you and see what we can figure out. If we need to refer, I have amazing people to refer to. As well as if you need to come into the practice and go from there. So we are also all virtual, so we can see people from all over the world and would love to just have a conversation with you. I do have, and I talked a little bit about this earlier, of course, is the Soulful Conception. This is not just for women, although it mostly speaks to women, and I get that and understand that, but it is. I want couples to be involved as much as the husband or the man wants to be involved. I think that just having that understanding of the impact that we have on our future is so important and so huge. And of course, just bringing in a healthy, productive, amazing little munchkin to start to continue to build on this world that we have. That is a good place. So grateful for you, Erin. Grateful for all of you for sticking around and paying attention. I'm looking at our numbers over here, and we've got people all over the place. United States, India, Indonesia, Ireland, Greece, Thailand, Serbia, Philippines, Germany, Montenegro. Fun. I know.
That's great. I love it. Do some international work too, so and it just has a different feeling, right?
Yeah.
Connecting with other cultures and finding our commonalities, that we are all interested in a lot of the same human elements of life.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
It's super cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's exciting. Having just the best time. So thank you again. Thank you, everybody. And we'll catch you next week at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Taste Life Nutrition Radio. See you later. All right, give me